My 34M girlfriend, 35F, dislikes my female friends, but maybe it's something deeper. Hello, everyone. We have been in a relationship for 2 years, and from the beginning, I have been transparent and proud of my friendships. We both recognize the influences that have shaped us into who we are today, including the individuals present in our lives. Both of us maintain friendships with people of all genders and backgrounds. For context, my girlfriend is bisexual, which has never been a determinant in my dating choices, but I felt it was important to mention. I also noticed that I have never been in a romantic relationship with someone who is not bisexual. However, it has never been a specific preference or something I sought. It is simply how my relationships have developed. Friendship background. I have consistently tried to be open about the people who matter to me, how long I have known them, and the reasons they are significant in my life. I mention names and subtle details about what makes them good people and safe to be around. I feel fortunate to still have friends from 2004, 2005, 2009, and so forth. Although my social circle is smaller now, I used to be quite outgoing, actively seeking like-minded individuals. In my youth, I was a typical goth outcast, but I was fortunate to find fellow goths and establish connections. I spent a lot of time online during a period when it still felt somewhat novel, and I formed some great friendships that way. Although I have not spoken to some of them in years, it would be nice to reconnect, and I do not think it would feel awkward. As time passed, some friendships naturally developed into romantic relationships. Unfortunately, those individuals are no longer part of my life. When those relationships ended, I prioritized closure. Sometimes it was a difficult lesson, due to poor boundaries on my part, the challenges of high school breakups, or situations where someone wanted to date me while already in a relationship. I often sought interactions without further entanglements. I have never been comfortable with physical intimacy early on. Initially, online interactions felt safer, but I eventually learned they were not healthy, and I was neglecting areas in myself that needed improvement. Nevertheless, I moved forward. I also dislike keeping former romantic interests in my life because it feels as though I am clinging to something that should not exist, a sort of backdoor relationship. I do not like giving others power over me in that capacity, especially considering I have encountered individuals in the past that were extremely manipulative and displayed narcissistic behavior. I have also had negative experiences with people who kept many others around for entertainment, validation, or backup options, merely to exercise their appeal. This kind of situation is not about self-worth, but rather stems from a constant need for validation. Current friendships and my girlfriend's concerns. When I met my girlfriend, I was completely emotionally available. None of my current female friends has ever been romantic interests, nor have I ever pursued them in that capacity. I have 3 female friends, but I rarely see them because they have moved away. 2 of them are in wonderful relationships, and life has become quite busy. These friendships originated in a larger group setting during our teenage years. We would attend parties, hang out, and sit on the grass talking, never engaging in drinking or any wild activities. One of these friends even dated one of my best male friends, and we all enjoyed spending time together in a completely platonic way, such as going to the store and watching movies. On hectic days, it was comforting to know I could see friends briefly before returning to work. Little moments like that strengthen core values like effective communication, confidence, and sharing what was happening in our lives. Over the years, we have all entered and exited relationships. There has never seemed to be any attraction among us, at least not on my side. What happened recently? Recently, it was my birthday, and one of these long-time female friends posted, 1. A story featuring us with the caption, "Happy birthday, love you so much." 2. A meme of 2 rats dancing with the caption, "My best friend and I after sharing the most awful traumas," etc. I felt a surge of anxiety because a few months earlier, my girlfriend and I had an argument regarding this same friend. Backstory of that argument: this friend had experienced a severe car accident that resulted in neck injuries. After months of healing, she finally felt well enough to socialize again and began meeting with friends and posting selfies with them, something she frequently does, even on their birthdays, with similar wording. We met for coffee and took a photo together, which she posted and tagged me in, and I reshared it. My girlfriend did not appreciate this. She said it appeared inappropriate and made it seem as though I was being questionable with another girl while in a relationship. I have shared moments like this before with other friends prior to my current relationship, and I genuinely believe that the visible language or tone in an image can reflect a healthy interaction that should not be mistaken for a date. I thought I was being mindful, so it puzzled me that it felt so wrong to her. That comment hurt because I have no romantic feelings for this friend. However, I want to take my girlfriend's concerns seriously, so I started questioning. Could my friend be subtly crossing boundaries? Is there an unspoken social cue I am missing? Possible explanations. I have seen discussions about similar situations, and I am curious if my girlfriend views it through one of these lenses. Unconscious partner seeking behavior. When a man is categorized as just a friend by other women, it can inadvertently diminish his desirability as a romantic partner. Power dynamics in friendships. The notion that a female friend might assert social power through open affection or playful dominance, possibly making it appear as if I am letting myself be tamed by someone else's influence. Implied romantic interest. Even if nothing has transpired, it may project an image that suggests unresolved tension. Other concerns in our relationship. When I am with my girlfriend, I rarely text anyone, mostly just my mother and sister when necessary, and I provide context so it does not seem rude. I seldom go out with friends anymore, primarily due to fatigue or scheduling conflicts. I admit that I hesitate to reach out to a female friend because it makes me uncomfortable, which saddens me. In the rare instances when I do communicate with friends, it is mostly through memes. Whether male or female, my friends and I do not engage deeply since we are often all quite tired, though I do engage in more profound conversations occasionally. However, it is rare, and it does not detract from my time with my girlfriend, as I am not texting while sitting next to her and ignoring her. I believe my female friends respect my relationship. At least I hope so. They do not call me randomly or disrupt my time with my girlfriend, so it has never felt like my time needs to be shared with that friend. Some of them have even suggested double dates or group outings, which I see as a healthy way to maintain friendships. However, I have noticed that they have stopped suggesting it, despite my girlfriend having felt uncomfortable in the past. Example of a misunderstanding: once, I had Instagram open, and several direct message notifications were visible. My girlfriend sat next to me while I was working, and I instinctively hesitated before switching tabs to avoid making it appear strange. That hesitation exacerbated the situation, and later she told me she thought I was concealing something. The messages were as follows: a condolence message to a high school classmate whose grandmother had passed away, with no additional conversation history. A career advice conversation with a friend seeking job opportunities. I was merely sharing helpful websites. I have assisted other friends who successfully landed jobs, and I genuinely value that friendship. I leave my phone unlocked, and she knows my password, often keeping it in front of her when I step away to encourage her security. She has shown no interest in checking my phone, which I have appreciated and tried to be transparent about. Where I am struggling, I miss my friends. Even though I do not see them often, when I do not want to feel as though I am doing something wrong. I highly value loyalty. Having been cheated on before, I would never do that to someone. My relationship with my girlfriend is meaningful, and I envision a future with her. That requires effort and commitment, and I see no reason to jeopardize something in which I am deeply invested. Yet, I do not understand why my friendships seem to be an issue when I have done nothing to indicate disloyalty. I appreciate perspectives such as the school of life's take on friendships and the idea that just friends are valuable connections. We can even be our most disappointing selves. Esther Perel's insights on infidelity and relationships. However, I am uncertain how to fully apply those concepts to my situation. I wish to respect her feelings without sacrificing my friendships. Summary: I have longtime female friends whom I seldom see. My girlfriend feels uneasy about these friendships, particularly when they post about me, an occurrence that has literally happened about 4 times in the last 2.5 years, involving birthday memories, nothing suggestive. I do not believe I have done anything wrong, but I also do not want to diminish her feelings. I want to find a balance that allows me to maintain my friendships without causing her distress. How do I navigate this? Story 2. I, 22F, got maybe ghosted by my friend, 23M. Is there a way to make sure he's alive? I apologize for the dramatic question. He is indeed alive, but I am just feeling quite perplexed at the moment. To start, I acknowledge that the typical responses are, move on, and, darling, you're living in a delusion, which my girlfriends have readily expressed. However, I seek a broader perspective, as I appreciate closure, even if it merely entails receiving a response from a stranger. So here we go. About a year ago, I met this guy at a bar. For the sake of this discussion, we can refer to him as Josh. He began chatting with me while his two friends occupied a booth. Now, for an embarrassing confession. When I first saw him, all I could think was, this is the most attractive guy I have ever encountered in my life. He is visually my ideal type. To make matters even more interesting, he wore a T-shirt from one of my favorite bands. He was friendly, but not in a creepy, I'm just a nice guy way. The twist here is that I was at the bar with someone I had been casually seeing. Nothing serious, no label, just mutual attraction at that moment. This guy went to grab something from his car and came back in acting exceptionally weird and possessive. But Josh was incredibly sweet about the situation and invited us to join their group. We played games and gradually formed a friendship, exchanging social media information before they left. Fast forward through the next chapter. I began dating someone, but he cheated on me, and I was sad for a while. One day, I suddenly thought of Josh and remembered that I had his contact information, so I reached out, being very direct. I texted him, saying that I thought he was cute that night and mentioned that the other guy and I do not communicate at all. I suggested hanging out, and Josh agreed, asking when I was available. We exchanged some surface-level messages, but then he abruptly stopped responding. I didn't want to keep pursuing someone who seemed unavailable, so I let go of my potential dream guy. March passed, then summer, then fall. In December, right before winter break, I noticed that he liked one of my stories. I found it odd, but I didn't think much of it. A week later, out of nowhere, I received a message from him, and I rolled my eyes upon reading just, hey. Normally, I am an overly forgiving person, but for some reason, I decided to be a little petulant, so my response was curt when he initiated the conversation. For instance, when he inquired about how I had been, I replied, good. Why? However, my indifferent attitude began to dissipate as he persisted in trying to engage with me. He confessed that he had gone through a tough time after graduation and had taken a hiatus, so I thought, okay, everyone deserves a second chance, and it turned out to be a pleasant exchange. While I was away from our college town for the holidays, we would text daily. His replies came within an hour or sooner, and if he needed to be away, he'd explain that he would be less available. Our conversations deepened as we shared about our families, aspirations, and future plans. I began to enjoy having him as my texting companion, even though I wasn't sure if it would progress further. I genuinely appreciated our exchanges, which did not irritate me. Eventually, I returned to our college town on New Year's Eve, and we were still communicating every day. That night, I had plans to go out with friends, and he did too, but we kept texting throughout the evening. I arrived home around 3 a.m., and he texted to ask how my night had been. I replied, good, inquiring about his. He said, it's a long story, you should call me, giving me his phone number in the chat. My immediate thought was, no way am I the one who is going to call. I texted just to say hi, and he immediately called, leading to a conversation that lasted until 4 in the morning. We discussed his night for the first 20 minutes, then transitioned into deeper subjects after that. His voice made me weak, but how embarrassing is that? Thus, we began to call each other regularly, usually instigated by him, while continuing to message throughout the day. Over time, these calls evolved into nearly 4-hour discussions. I realized that even if nothing romantic developed, I was content just getting to know him. It was refreshing to have a friend. I started to wonder if he would ever want to meet in person, but I hesitated to put myself in a vulnerable position, so I didn't push it. It turned out that while he pursued his master's degree, he would assist in teaching some undergraduate classes at the business school, which is quite different from the Bachelor of Fine Arts I am currently working on. During the early weeks of the spring semester, we were chatting, and he happened to be in the building where he taught. He invited me to hang out with him while he planned his lessons, and I accepted. He was just as I remembered, still the most handsome guy I had ever seen, which was annoyingly perfect. Even better, his personality remained as charming as during our phone conversations. We both expressed how much we enjoyed spending time together, just chatting in the classroom. He stopped writing on the board within the first 30 minutes, and he invited me again a few days later. It was just as enjoyable, slightly curtailed by his intoxicated roommate, the friend from the bar a year ago, calling, but he was a sweetheart too, so I couldn't be upset. After that, he went on a trip for the fantastic business he works for, yet he continued to text and call for hours. This time he would reach out on days when he felt down or when I mentioned having a tough day. He also started sharing deeply personal matters, which touched me greatly since it is rare for men, especially straight men, to open up like that. He mentioned that he had only discussed these issues with his close friends or roommate. It struck me how much he valued our connection and wanted to share. The phone conversations became more frequent as he expressed a desire to hang out outside of class. One Friday, while enjoying a few seltzers, which I had mentioned to him, I became quite frank, and I tend to speak straightforwardly when I drink. So when he suggested getting together, I responded, "Okay, I'll wait," and he laughed, as he typically does at my humor. I mean, come on, I'm funny, but not that funny. The next day, we returned to our usual texting and calling routine. Then, around 2 weeks ago, I received a message stating that he would happily bring me some seltzers if we could watch a movie and chat. I agreed, not expecting anything, and then he asked, "Watermelon, right?" I was taken aback, wondering, "That's the flavor you had when we called last week, isn't it?" In my mind, I thought, "Wow, this kid does pay attention." After finishing my class around 6 p.m., I asked, "Did you mean tonight?" He replied that he was busy but wanted to know my weekend plans. I mentioned I had a birthday party tomorrow and some events during Saturday and Sunday. He informed me he had plans with the guys, which I found unpleasant, on Friday night, but would assist his mother with moving into her new office on Saturday, being available afterwards. The conversation shifted the following day, Friday, as we discussed our weekend plans. Unfortunately, the party I was attending would also have my ex-date from the bar a year back, whom Josh had met. He joked about wanting to have a discussion with that guy now because he sensed that my ex-date was not fond of him, which was pretty obvious within the first 20 minutes, honestly. I mentioned that I was dreading it because I disliked a particular club the birthday person wanted to attend, where I tended to be hit on by much older men. I expressed that I would rather lick concrete than have to endure any interaction with him again, stating the reality that no one wishes to witness their unpleasant ex dancing with attractive girls while being approached by someone of Aristotle's age. We bantered about that for a moment, and I said, "Well, you better wish me luck," and then, poof, he vanished, no word from him since. I reached out to check on him, apologizing if I had done anything to upset him, as that was far from my intention. However, I received no response, not even a read receipt. We remain best friends on Snapchat, which may seem childish, but he still follows me, and I am not blocked, yet he has not viewed my stories, and my messages remain delivered. Was I attracted to him romantically? Certainly, but now he lingers in my thoughts since I first missed the idea of the most charming guy I had ever seen. However, I miss my friend. He entrusted me with some weighty matters occurring in his life, and I genuinely want to know if he is okay and what transpired. More importantly, if he needs someone to rely on, I want to be that person for him. Everyone carries baggage, but it feels more manageable when someone is willing to help bear the load, whether as a friend or otherwise. I know this sounds pathetic, but my experiences around him feel distinct. So Reddit, what are your thoughts? Any insights? If there is something I could do, what would it be? Or honestly, any theories regarding his unusual behavior would be greatly appreciated. P.S. I have encountered ghosting multiple times, but never quite like this, so this is not due to a lack of experience. Story 3. My 27F fiancé, 26M, threatened to euthanize my anxious, aggressive cat. Can I convince him to be kinder to my kitty? I believe this is the very first post I have shared on Reddit, so I hope I am doing it correctly. I'm quite far past my bedtime while composing this, so I apologize for any misspellings or rambling. Thank you for your attention. Background: I recently moved in with my fiancé. We have been together for 5 years. I am disabled and unable to work, which is why he purchased the house and covers all the expenses. It's important to note that my fiancé had already paid many of my bills even before we cohabited, especially during the last year when I began experiencing more severe health issues. I own a black cat named Yin. I have had Yin for 5 years since he was a kitten, and I cared for him when I used to manage my own finances, prior to becoming too ill to work, so Yin is truly my cat. In fact, I have a prescription from my doctor that designates Yin as an emotional support animal. I cherish this cat as if he were my own child. He has helped me through significant trauma over the last several years. Living in isolation due to COVID-19, I lacked family connections and friends during that time, and my fiancé lived across the state. Consequently, I had no human interaction for extended periods, with my only emotional support being my cats alongside other highly stressful events such as losing my job and having to withdraw from college due to my deteriorating health. That being said, my fiancé and I have been in a committed relationship since before I adopted any of my cats, and he has supported me and the cats throughout the years, so we have always considered the cats to be partly his as well, even though they all lived with me. I would go to any lengths for Yin. He is the sweetest boy and always comes to me when I am unwell because he seems to sense it every time. He is my baby. Nonetheless, Yin has struggled with anxiety for his entire life. When he experiences anxiety, he starts urinating on furniture. I cannot even count how much furniture I have had to discard because of this. When he is particularly stressed, he has even peed on me while I was sleeping. I have taken him to the veterinarian, where it was confirmed that his issues stem solely from anxiety, with no other health concerns. I suspect he targets my favorite seating spots because he does this as a cry for help, or perhaps in an attempt to mark me as his territory. Since my fiancé and I moved into our new home, Yin has begun urinating on furniture again, and I had to take action to prevent our furniture from being ruined. My fiancé then issued me an ultimatum. If Yin does not stop urinating, we would either have to find him a new home or confine him to the basement, which is not a viable option since the basement is unfinished, unsafe, cold, and I am unable to safely navigate down there daily due to my physical limitations. My ultimate solution, after years of attempting various alternatives, was to purchase a crate for Yin. It is a spacious crate designed for cats that resembles a cat tower, containing a litter box at the bottom and attached bowls for food and water. I placed it next to my bed, providing a platform adjacent to the head of my bed so he can still feel like he is sleeping next to me at night. Yin spends the night in his crate and remains there when I leave the house, though never for more than a few hours, and I release him in the morning or when I return home, at which point I put reusable diapers on him. He receives a potty break twice daily when I take him to his litter box and remove his diaper. He never actually soils his diapers, they merely deter him from urinating on the furniture. He has quickly adapted to this routine and even appears excited about going into his crate, often preferring to spend his time there. I have to gently coax him out into the living room to encourage him to walk around during the day. He remains unfazed by the diapers and purrs contentedly while I put them on him. I also obtained a prescription for Prozac from the veterinarian with the hope of alleviating his anxiety. All of these measures seem to be effective in reducing his anxiety, and he no longer has the opportunity to urinate on our furniture. The only issue now is that when Yin comes into the living room, he has been getting into fights with 2 of our other cats. We have 5 cats. Based on my observations, I believe the 2 cats, who are sisters and exhibit quite similar behaviors, were disturbed by Yin's diapers, leading them to growl at him frequently. Yin then became fed up and started growling back, resulting in cat fights. At this point, those 2 cats growl at Yin whenever they see him, regardless of whether he is reacting or even asleep in his crate, and the cat fights have become a daily occurrence. One of those 2 cats is now fearful of Yin. He gets along well with our other 2 cats and our dog. I suspect the kitty Prozac might also be influencing Yin's mood, making him more aggressive than usual, as he never used to get into fights before all of this. Alternatively, it's possible that Yin may feel pent up after being in his crate all night, taking his frustration out on the other cats. Thankfully, nothing too severe has occurred thus far. There have been no injuries requiring attention. the worst that has happened is that one kitty has gotten some fur stuck in their claws from another cat. I do not take sides in these altercations because I love all of my cats equally. They are all my babies. I do not assign blame to my cats as they are simply acting like cats, and I have been trying to find ways to resolve the issue. All of this brings me to tonight, when yet another cat fight occurred. My fiancé became frustrated with Yin and stated that if he continued to fight, especially if another cat were to sustain a serious injury, we would have to consider euthanizing him. I firmly told him that was out of the question and that it would not happen under any circumstances. I explained that this was not Yin's fault and reiterated everything I previously mentioned. We still have options available. We could try discontinuing the Prozac to see if it affects his mood positively, find ways to help Yin expend his energy, provide him with a designated area outside his crate where he can retreat without having to share. I recently purchased a cat tower for him that I intend to keep in my room, or simply keep the cats separated in different rooms for a while to prevent them from fighting. My fiancé responded by asserting that it was his house and that he would establish the rules. He claimed that if he deemed it necessary to put Yin down, I would not be able to do anything about it. He argued that he was simply trying to protect the other cats, referencing a past incident in which Yin had been aggressive towards humans. My fiancé was recalling a single incident from about 3 years ago when Yin bit him after he attempted to forcibly dry him with a blow dryer following a bath, despite several warnings from me and Yin. I remain convinced that my fiancé instigated this situation, especially since it appeared that Yin was focused on the blow dryer rather than him. Yin has never bitten or scratched anyone else. I told my fiancé that if he pursued euthanizing my cat, I would find a way to leave him and take the cats with me. I insisted that I would not negotiate on this matter, and under no circumstances would I ever agree to have Yin put down simply because he was experiencing emotional difficulties, as I am confident I can identify solutions. He advised me not to let my feelings about my cat overwhelm me. He described it as an uncomfortable conversation that needed to happen. He mentioned that the relationship between Yin and the other 2 cats is damaged and impossible to repair. I expressed my belief that he was being stubborn, controlling, and jumping to conclusions without justification. I told him not to dictate my emotions and that my thoughts and feelings regarding the issue are valid. Furthermore, I conveyed my belief that if I keep the cats separated for long enough, they would forget the conflict and improve their interactions. My fiancé is incredibly obstinate and refuses to acknowledge my reasoning. How can I persuade him not to be so harsh toward my beloved cat? Summary: my fiancé is threatening to euthanize my cat due to fights with our other cats. I am resolute in preventing that outcome and have warned him that I will leave him if he tries. I wish to find a solution instead. How do I convince my fiancé to be more understanding toward my cat? Story 4. Ayo, completely dropping my best friend of 20 years. I, 29F, and my best friend K, 29F, have been close friends since we were 9 years old. We both moved to the same city at the same time, which allowed us to strengthen our bond, and our friendship only deepened as the years went by. During high school, she became involved with a toxic partner who was abusive. He threatened me several times, insisting that I owed him money, and our communication ceased for several years until she ended that relationship. I never held any of his actions against her because we were young, and he had a detrimental influence on her, effectively isolating her from others. She lacked a solid relationship with her immediate family and didn't have many other friends. I made an effort to maintain a fulfilling social life, which I believe caused her some discomfort. She faces several mental health challenges that affect her connections with others, so I tried not to let her complaints about my socializing with other people disturb me too much. It wasn't until around 2019 that I began to reevaluate the nature of our friendship. I started dating a man named E, whom I quickly fell in love with. It was obvious that she wasn't fond of him, and he reciprocated those feelings. I purposely kept them apart, aware that they didn't get along. E often questioned the quality of my friendship with K, suggesting that she was not a loyal friend. Though I didn't dwell on it much at the time, it did plant seeds of doubt. After E and I broke up about a year and a half later, my friendship with Kay resumed its normal course without anything particularly noteworthy happening. In 2021, I found myself in a difficult mental state. I reached out to another close friend, C, and though I can't recall my exact words, it was enough for him to worry about my well-being. C, who lives about an hour away, decided to contact K since she lived nearby to express his concerns about me. The following day, I was feeling somewhat better. Out of the blue, Kay came over to my house in tears. She expressed her worry about my well-being, and one particular statement she made still resonates with me. "Don't ever do that to me again." Her comment struck me as inappropriate. First and foremost, I was not in any danger of harming myself. Furthermore, if I believed someone was at risk of hurting themselves, I would never make it about me. Fast forward a few months, I accepted a job at the same place my father worked. I genuinely enjoyed the job, had great coworkers, and it was an overall pleasant work environment. I couldn't help but talk enthusiastically about it while spending time with Kay, who had just lost her job. She asked if I could help her get a position there, so I explored that possibility. A few months later, she began working there too. In January of 2022, my father experienced a serious medical event at work. Upon learning what had happened, my supervisor informed me, and I immediately left to accompany my mother to the hospital. We soon discovered that my father had suffered an aneurysm and required urgent surgery to survive. He underwent the operation and lived, but his recovery was far from assured. I took a week or two off following my father's accident. It took a toll on my family and me. When I spoke with Kay a few days after his surgery, she mentioned that she had left work due to being so close to my family, which really affected her. When I inquired what she had done after returning home, she mentioned getting high and taking a nap. The fact that she opted to spend her time smoking while I was anxiously waiting for updates on my father's surgery bothered me. Over the next month or so, the work environment remained stable, though I soon noticed that Kay was taking off at least a day or two each week. I also heard complaints from colleagues about their dislike of working with her. I felt upset and concerned that my association with her would reflect poorly on me since I had been instrumental in her getting hired in the first place. Months passed, and my father remained hospitalized, struggling significantly. He was unable to move his left side, could barely speak, and suffered multiple illnesses, including COVID-19 and pneumonia, as well as sepsis. Eventually, Kay took a mental health leave from the job. I am unsure about her reasons, but it felt like we were drifting apart. Whenever my father's situation arose, she somehow made it about how it impacted her. In truth, she rarely visited my home or spent time with my family. By this point, I had grown weary of her presence. Being around her was exhausting. She drained everyone's energy and had a tendency to emphasize her own struggles whenever others shared theirs. She had also lost some weight and would remark on how I was now considered her fat friend, despite having always weighed more than me up until that point. In February of 2023, my father sadly passed away due to a blood infection. Kay, in her role as an exceptional friend, didn't come over, didn't call, and didn't even send me a message. The only acknowledgement I received was a heart reaction on the Facebook post I wrote about my father's death. That incident was essentially the final straw for me. I cut off communication, removed her from my social media profiles, and so on. She attempted to reach out several times afterward, but I ignored her until recently. She sent me a message on Instagram, expressing confusion about our silence and wishing to rekindle our friendship. I confronted her, clearly stating that I was uninterested in re-establishing our relationship and advised her to reflect on why I decided to distance myself. She then proceeded to explain that she had quit the job we both worked at not long after my father's passing, lamenting that she needed my support but felt abandoned. At that point, I told her to go away. Why should I comfort her over quitting a job shortly after my father's death? I shared this conversation with several friends. Some of them supported my decision to cut her out of my life and insisted that I was justified, while others suggested I should show her some empathy due to her lack of friends and her ongoing mental health struggles. So I ask, am I overreacting by completely severing ties with her after all of this?